Let's turn our focus to today's discussion. I will stop here, and I would like to introduce our moderator for today. The stage will be fully hers, and for her guests, very exciting panelists. And this is Oksana Forostyna, who is the curator of today's program. Oksana, thank you for guiding us through these important conversations. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ernie, and I would like to invite my first guests, Yuliya Vaganova, Sirje Helme, and Daphne Tolis. No, I have one. Thank you. So I will now tell more about our guests today and about our topic. Ernie, thank you very much for the introduction again, and thank you for all of you for coming. This discussion is a part of the project Ukrainian Muted, as you already know, presented by my Lviv colleague from the Cultural Strategy Institute of Lviv, and Vermenska 35, which is again an NGO. In Lviv, we do it for the third time. We did it 2 years ago in Kaunas, we did it in Lublin, and every time we were supported by International Renaissance Foundation in Ukraine, and this project is also supported by the European Union. And it is a part of the Tartu 2024 European Capital of Culture program. We are very, very grateful to our hosts. And here in Tartu, we will have three panelists for every discussions. We try to balance it to cover each topic from different angles. We brought our Ukrainian guests, and we are very happy to have a luxury to have our Estonian panelists and our panelists from other countries. Today we have Daphne Tolis, who is a journalist and producer and documentary filmmaker from Greece. Daphne is based in Athens, and Sirje Helme is definitely known in this audience. I feel it already, and well known in Estonia, as far as I know. She is now CEO of Art Museum of Estonia Foundation and a former general director of Art Museum of Estonia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and also a member of several international organizations, including, for example, ICOM. And my compatriot Yuliya Vaganova is from Kiev. She is Director General of Boris and Varvara Khanenko Art Museum, which is a huge collection of European, Eastern, and ancient art. Yes, this collection is now, of course, hidden. Most of it. So basically, I would start with asking Yuliya to start our discussion, which is called "How to Stay Afloat When Nothing is Certain." That's actually my first question to she came to museum not long before the invasion in October 2021. We already knew at this point that something is coming. So in this crucial moment, Yuliya had to basically to save the collection, to save the museum. That was the first challenge. The second challenge was the missile that came to us from Russia and landed on the playground just in front of the museum, the building in the very center of Kiev. So that was another experience which would be a nightmare for every museum director in the world. So, and I would like to invite Yuliya and tell us how she went through it.
Thank you. Do we need microphone?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Good day to everyone. Thank you for being here with you. And as Oksana mentioned, yes, I came to the museum several months before the full-scale invasion. Before I used to work in the Mistetsky Arsenal, it's a big institution, and Ukrainian National Art Museum. And my first background, it's a Center for Contemporary Art, which I grew and have a background of also contemporary art curator. Talking about the museum, yes, the collection is conservated. We use this terminology. You have to understand that, unfortunately, there is no safe place in Ukraine wherever collection is now placed. So unfortunately, it's not safe if to talk about the collection, not in the safe place, because just no safe place, unfortunately. When we are talking about the institution and museum, we are quite a classical, quite academical museum of Western European, Eastern and Islamic, or Asian and Islamic art, how we call it right now. It's really, it calls Bohdan and Varvara Khanenko Museum, Art Museum, because the collection grows from the private collection of the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, quite usual story for every European, for many European museums actually. And we don't have Ukrainian collection at all. We have only this art, and our art is from Egypt time till the beginning of the 20th century. And now we have empty space, so we don't have collection on the walls at all. And for us, it's a main question, actually, how to deal with this situation. And we raise this question, how we could help to our society and what is institution during such a turbulent time. And we understood that we have to be open. So we opened in May 2022 again, and from this time, museum never closed its doors. And we are working with the different projects, with the contemporary artists, with the contemporary opera, with the musicians, with the private collectioners, because private collectioners could take risks on his own or her own on the collection. But what is important for us? For us it's important to raise question how to balance between erasing the memory of the space, because when you're going and walking through the empty museum, you start to forget what it used to be here before. And re-ownership the history of this institution through the emptiness. Sometimes I will make it, I will explain it. Sometimes, to be honest, it's easier to make this ownership through the empty space, because all the institutions in Ukraine more or less were built on the Soviet frame museum agenda. So museums were the political tool. And also Museum of Western European and Eastern Art, how it calls during the Soviet time, it also was a political institution. It was served the certain messages for during the Soviet time, to be not critical, to be a place with the nice pictures, to be a place for the international delegations, and to be a place for celebrating a friendship between Soviet Union and particular country, like, I don't know, India or Hungary or whatever we had friendship countries during the Soviet Union time. And now it's a question how we could actually to agree and to be honest to ourselves and to tell us that yes, we were actually political institution and serve Soviet agenda, and how to make this re-ownership and to find the new way how institution could work in these times. So this is a make balancing between re-ownership and not a law to erase memory. And this is the way how we're working, doing the different exhibition and all the time, and project all the time, try to find the connection with the history of the institution. I mean, the ground of the collection, how it was founded, what was the main mission of the private person who decided to make the great collection and to make a gift to the society of this collection. Another thing, what we are talking and what we are working and thinking about every day, of course, it's a physical preservation of the collection, but not only the building itself. And Oksana mentioned that it was a missile attack in October, and because of this attack, on 10th of October, museum, all facade windows, part of the roof of the museum and part of the doors inside museum and outside, they were broken because of the wave after the explosion. The rocket hit the ground 20 meters in front of the museum. Yes, it's really a nightmare, to be honest, for every director of the institution. And how to save and preserve the collection and the building. Saving and preserving the collection and building means not only to hide it, because it's not possible sometimes, but also to save people who has a knowledge about the collection, about the heritage, and about the history. Because if we will not save the people, it will be just artifacts for the Kunstkamera. We just will have the history like, I don't know, Maya civilization, when we know that it was a civilization, but we don't know exactly how to use it right now. So for us, it's very important to save people and to let people work, to have a dignity and feeling the dignity of the profession, of the researchers or people who are saving the artifacts. This is another issue which we are working on all the time. As I mentioned, to be helpful for the society and to be the place of the resistance and solidarity, because when we opened the doors in May 2022, it was a place that people were just could come and to be together in the yard, having coffee and having different discussion and musician concerts. Kyiv was empty by that time, but as we realized, it was very important for the people. For example, first workshop we've done about how to pack your very important things, your valuable things, because we are, of course, professionals in packing museum objects. So that's why we share this experience with the people who really want to save photos or some, I don't know, artifacts which they have in building. And last but not the least, it's connected with the collection and it's connected with the cultural diplomacy, because we do believe that to preserve collection means not to hide, but to show the collection. And this is another direction which we are working for. We are trying to make different projects with our international partners to present the collection. So we made several exhibitions in Vilnius, in Warsaw, in Paris, in Louvre we had an exhibition, and now it's the second one in the Louvre Lens, the affiliate of the Louvre. We had project also, we are planning project in Germany and in Italy, so for us it's important to walk and to show the collection, because this is the way how we could talk about the Ukraine and how we could talk about our common background with Europe, because Ukrainians actually grows from the same collections as the Europeans. I mean, the classical art, old masters, also a lot of Chinese art, Japanese art, Iranian art, all these things which help us not to capsulate in our traditional culture, but to grow our culture and to make the new ideas and to grow the new ideas. So this is how we are working and why we are working now during the war and not closing the institution.
Thank you. Thank you. Could you pass it to Sirje? Sorry, because I have...
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Sirje, in Ukraine, we usually say that we knew that coming. At most cases, people say we knew this coming since Georgia, 2008. But actually it started, I mean, the threats we have to deal now, it started not from Georgia, it started from Estonia in 2007 with the cyber attacks on Estonian institution. And throughout these years, Estonia was actually the most, I think I will not be exaggerated, the most aware country of the risk that's coming. You totally can say, we told you so. So can you tell us a little bit how Estonian institution and your institution is particularly prepared has been prepared to the risks, different risks coming from this year, and what changed lately?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I don't think that anybody can be really be ready for such kind of event, such kind of war. Nobody. We can draw every plans and do everything, and we're still doing it. But reality gives their own tools. And I'd like to firstly thank you, Yuliya. I looked your film about this, what you have done, and I was surprised. I was surprised how finally it was a positive. You had some solution. What you have done, all this idea about these empty spaces to fill these empty spaces with something else, not to lose your memory. So this was. I have to show to my colleagues also, because anyway, I would say that Estonians are not very emotionally good shape today because of all this, what is going on in the world. And I think, I can't say on the name of others, but museum workers, especially who are working in collections, they are very under stress, I would say. And we have our plans, indeed. We have worked already 2 years, sitting around the tables, drawing and training, and etc., etc. And of course, we have the question what to do our material heritage, and also something, as you said, there is no place how to hide it in Estonia. It's just a tiny place in the world, and some things goes out, but anyway, 90% will stay in Estonia. And what happened with them? So at this point, the future is not so inviting. But maybe I also will reply to your question. But firstly, I would say that after this 2007, it has been already a long time ago. So anyways, in large scale, the picture in museum world is rather good. I make compliments to my colleagues from Estonian museums. Of course, we all have problems, finance problems, other problems, but basically, most of our museums are very, how to say, innovative, very professional, and very fastly kind of developing. And this happened, was it kind of, yeah, it was before the war. We counted visitors in our tiny country, more than 3 million visitors in museums. It's not bad at all. Of course, we can't compare with State or Pompidou Center, etc. But how many people actually live in Estonia? And of course, there was also tourists, but we can't remember that it was before war, was a COVID. So we survived the COVID. We hope very much together with Ukraine. We survive the war because we don't know what's happened tomorrow. But I believe everything what was said today here. There is, anyway, only way we can hope, and no other ways. So in museum and in Estonian culture, in a large scale, I think everything is okay. And just a few words about our since today. In our museum, as I was presented as a museum director, I have been already 18 years. I started in 2006, just before this what happened in Tallinn, mostly in Tallinn, not in, I don't know anything about Tartu so much. It was in Tallinn, happened also. And it's the biggest art museum in Estonia. We have from medieval age up to today, up to contemporary art. We have 5 buildings. 2 of them are really old, from 14th and 18th century buildings, which belong to our foundation, because from 2016 we are foundation, which means that we actually working on the basis of like a business company. Which means that we are working, we have to keep the balance between money and between our aim to build professional and reliable art museum. It's not easy, but anyway, it gives us a certain freedom and finance freedom. So I think the pluses is a bit more as a minuses, but it needs work. And we are working as a normal museum with partners and international relations. Everything is working, and but at the last year and after the 2006-7, which was not only a cyber attack, it was physical attack actually. It was. Nobody couldn't expect it, what will happen. It was a real riot in the middle of Tallinn. Shops were robbed, everything was, and even some really hurted people. This was, nobody could believe that something happens in our very quiet, small town, Tallinn. But after that, of course, we both know that we have a very unreliable partner, but we kind of forgot to think about it. But after that, of course, it's permanent. We just physically sometimes feel behind. And of course, after this 24th of February, which Estonians are celebrating Independence Day. And my family families are always together and celebrating. And in my family, I have grandsons in the age of 18, 17, basically on the same level, four grandsons. And then we were sitting after this announcement by TV, and then my oldest grandson were looking to the youngers and said, listen, he just came back from our defense forces. Yeah. And it's the most radical, as we are calling it, group, or I don't know, thinking for attacking, the first attack. And he said, yes, I'm the first, and then you will come. It was message, we all will maybe die. And it was, so we were all sitting, and I was thinking my nice dear grandson, and they were sitting like a small kids around the table and said, of course, we have to go. Anyway, it's now it's talking. It was incredible moment, and that's why I think many Estonians were thinking at the same moment, and that's why you're so much supporting Ukraine, because we know we are with you. There is nothing to say. We are the same situation. We have simply been lucky until now. Anyway, and what's the problem now? Problem with our culture is now that our economy is not a very good shape. I would say awful shape. And culture was, and several cuts, taxes are raising, but the biggest cuts are for culture, 13.5%. And already, it's the discussions already from the spring when started the discussions about next year finance budget, state budget, and Estonians basically quite not very people ready for riots or something. We are not like a French people. So in any case into the streets and burn some cars and then it's okay. We are quite, quiet. But in last, I would say last 5 months, the debate about culture and the importance of culture is a very hot topic actually. And cultural people, including myself, we are trying to write articles, talking in our broadcasts. And the main question is, okay, cuts have been decided. We can't change it anymore, it's the state budget. But we are just wondering, what is the plan for the next years? What's the plan? And how the state is looking to the culture? What's the role of culture? Do you understand what the culture is? And for us for me also personally, culture is a security problem. If we are losing something in our culture, if we are losing emotionally, then we are losing also in the war. There is no hope that if people don't believe anymore that our identity, our culture, our position here in this land is not important anymore, so why we need a state at all? It was my question 2 weeks ago in broadcast. If you don't think that culture is important, then if you are just losing the, how to say, blood, vereringe. Yeah, blood circulation, exactly. And the body, if state is body, and the body doesn't have any more blood circulation, we don't need this kind of state. So, and the debate is going on and on and on, because finally, I'm very happy to say that finally, cultural people decided to say, we are absolutely sure that we are so important. Culture is so important for Estonians because already at the beginning of the 20th century, we all know this slogan that yes, Estonian is a small in territory, small in number of people, but we are great in our spirit. So we keep in our mind from childhood. So we thought that everybody knows and everybody is behaving according to that. But so you see, no, it's only Oja thinking so in such a way. So anyway, it's a quite big movement already in the cultural situation now, and also, but we don't blame it. We are just looking for plan. If plan A is now, we're looking for plan B. We're looking for future, what to do, how to do, and of course. Now we have these two problems, our economy but of course this is small if you compare what comes out from outside. How it's international situation, political and of course security situation is going more problematic day by day. And that's why I should also did ask what we will do to be prepared. I don't even know how to prepare for such kind of things. I really don't prepare. As I said, we have different plans. We know that we have to send our most valuable heritage. Was it France, I think? But it's not said indeed, but somewhere far away. France is a big country. I don't know where. and I personally know that we can keep in our museum one car, because it's also cars immediately will be taken for army, but we can keep one car to maybe to pick up from other museums. To Kumu is the newest building, and -3 level are really depots which are insecure. Maybe if I don't know, the technology shows that. But basically, yeah, as I said, 90% of our heritage. Where to hide? We can hide somewhere. During the Second World War, the places were in villages and small churches in villages. But it was Second World War. It was, it's an uncomparable technology at this time. Now we decided that in the Kumu our newest museum, is really the only place. It's no sense to take out to some church village. They are absolutely unsecure. Who is taking care of our, I don't know, 14th century wood sculpture? Nobody is not standing and taking care. So it's anyways a place where we collecting all this. That's why all these items, and that's why we need also a car, which I am very thankful that we can have this car. Anyway, it's very much necessary. Yeah, but it's this way of thinking, what we had some 60, 70 years ago, doesn't work. And as I said, Estonia is so small, there is no place to hide away, simply. If we have talks at how many minutes it takes for Air Force to come from behind San Narva to Tallinn, 2 minutes, maybe. I don't know. So it's a really also somehow existential question. If something happens, we are ready. But sometimes I thinking, and of course we are reading every day in newspaper how it goes, and worse and worse and worse and worse. So maybe, but it means that emotionally, I think very many people are already not so healthy anymore. And we can see it. And I think maybe you have to give more positive information. I'm very critical about press, because you never know what comes against the next news. And that's why I think I have talked also with our Minister of Culture, and she's a nice lady and she knows everything. But what she can do? Nothing. She's alone in this. She's a part of government, which is a decision, is government decision. She's a part of government, that's all. But we are trying to work out some more positive program, because if culture will lose the aim, then really then we have lost everything. So we really have to fight for this spirit, this spirit what Estonians believed at the beginning of the 20th century, that yes, we are so small, there is no place to hide away, but we are big in spirit. This is my hope. Thank you.
Daphne, you came from Greece, and you can tell us about other kind of risk, because we are very, very close to the Russian border here as we sit, and we mostly talk about military, the war risks, and Greece faced recently another kind of risk, even more unpredictable, I guess. And again, no one was prepared, as far as I understand. Could you please tell us more about communities, but also about cultural institutions? Because that's another thing that people actually is coming to your country for the cultural heritage and cultural institutions.
Exactly. Thank you so much for inviting me here, and thank you for everyone that came here today. It's lovely to be here. I'm from Greece, Athens. I was born in Canada, and I work as a freelance documentary filmmaker and journalist, and I've been covering all the crises in Greece in the recent years. As you said, the press is always mostly about negative things, and that is true. And I know that because I work in Greece, and that's how I got into journalism, coming from a documentary background. It's when when the financial crisis hit Greece very badly, and we were on the news every day about to exit the euro, the eurozone. We had the referendum. We had the term Grexit, which then, there was Brexit as well, but at the time Grexit was very popular. Bank closures, capital controls, that was all in 2015, so 9 years ago. We lost, the GDP, salaries and pensions were slashed. We're still reeling from this financial crisis, to be honest. And then we had the refugee crisis, again, something that we were not prepared for. Thousands of people coming to the shores of Greece, the Greek islands, from the Turkish coast. They were crossing in boats in the thousands every day on the islands, and basically Greece was a transit country for people going to Germany, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, seeking for a better life. Syrian, Afghans, Iraqis. It's still going on, but it's not so much in the news anymore. But it's not, of course, in the same numbers. And recently, in the last few years, again, Greece was in the news a lot with the fires and the flooding, especially with these recent wildfires that we had starting in 2018, the deadliest of all in Mati, which was a resort near Athens, and people were trapped there. After the fire started, there was a bad plan, let's say, bad evacuation plan. It wasn't actually really an evacuation, so people got stuck there, and died in this fire, and this sparked and started a whole different chapter in Greece of how to deal with these kinds of crises. We didn't know, of course, at the time. No one knew at the time what was going to be like in the next years. You know, the climate change and how it was going to affect Greece and in what way, because we weren't. I mean, we were kind of used to having fires, yes, every year, but maybe not in this intensity and this frequency that we've seen the last, let's say, 4 years since 2000. Yeah, 4 years so far. This was very traumatic for the Greek people, the fire in 2018, and ever since then we've had fires every year, and big fires. We even have a new term now, which we call mega fires. You know, fires that persist for a long time. They're very difficult to fight and very difficult to put out. Any, you know, even with any resources, it's difficult to access these places, and firemen have, you know, limited resources. But even with these resources, it's just sometimes impossible to battle these fires that can go on for days on end. And of course, this happens all over Greece. It's not just in Athens, where, you know, almost half of the country lives in Athens, and it's become a very touristy and popular destination. Again, after COVID, we've seen record numbers of tourists visiting Greece, but also Athens, and for the landmark, of course, which is the Acropolis. People come there to see the Acropolis and the Acropolis Museum, but also other sites in Greece, which have also faced threats several times, like the ancient site of Olympia in the Peloponnese has been threatened several times. It's the birthplace of the Olympic Games in recent years. The island of Evia, 2021, there was a massive fire that was going on for days again. A very iconic picture that was, I think, on Newsweek or cover of an elderly lady looking up in the sky, and in the background it was flames behind, and her house was looking like it was on fire, and she was looking up in the sky, and this made, you know, it became viral all over the world. I went back to this village in March, the same village on the island of Evia, which had flooded last September. So some of these areas that faced and had to fight with these wildfires were then affected by flooding. The same areas, the same villages, which is something that, of course, scientists will tell you that it's possible to happen when you have a wildfire and the trees are burnt down. Then your next threat is flooding and water, especially if this water comes in unprecedented amount, like it did with Storm Daniel. We had water of, let's say, that should be spread out over the course of a year fall in 24 hours. So no matter how much you have prepared for that, this is something that you can't really deal with when it happens. Now we've seen Valencia, what is similar, having all this amount of water falling in 24 hours or 48 hours. You can't fight that. This is something that you just have to prepare as much as you can, and then mitigate or deal with the aftermath, which is always tends to be dramatic. So now Greece has started this discussion. This discussion has been sparked about how to preserve the cultural heritage, the traditions, even the small villages which are part of the culture of Greece and part of what people are attracted to when coming to Greece. They come to see all these monuments, of course, the museums, but they also come to see other, the smaller villages, the little idyllic places which have been there for thousands of years. And now there is a real turn of trying to find ways to preserve and protect these ancient sites, these cultural institutions, these places across the country from the natural disasters, from the climate change, but also from human impact. So talks about how to preserve the Greek identity in these times of the escalating challenges that we see with climate, but also with tourism. Having said that, tourism is a major, vital source of income for Greece, but at the same time, it poses other questions of sustainability. Whether these sites, monuments, museums, how can they handle large amounts of people over a shorter period of time, which is a 3 or 4 months season? Now there are talks of limiting numbers of tourists on islands like Santorini, for example, and Mykonos, with cruise ships that they're coming, or imposing a fee. These are being discussed at the moment. There were plans about we have to limit them or put some ticket, let's say, that people will pay per head, per person, in order to limit these numbers of people coming in a very short period of time, which creates its own stress onto, of course, the local community, but also the museums, the people working there, everything there is a challenge, to kind of to deal with such large numbers of people when you're visiting a site or a museum or anything. It becomes increasingly difficult for those working in these fields and in tourism industry. And on top of all of that, you have the heat waves, which again, we are used to having heat waves in the summer in Greece. I remember growing up, and every summer we were like, you're not going to go out between 12 and 4 o'clock. It's when the sun is intense and the heat is in its peak. You have to stay in the shade. You have to wear light clothes. You have to wear a hat. You have to drink water, eat light meals. This is something that when you grow up in Greece, you're used to it. But it is also the summertime when most people will visit the country, and they also have to deal with these challenging temperatures, which most people will not be used to. So they want to see more of Greece, and they come out and try to take advantage of the day, the sunlight and everything that maybe in other countries is not so common. I mean, we've had this summer, we haven't had like one cloudy day in 5 months. So it's been constant sun. And the earliest heat wave to record was in June, actually. It was the hottest month in record. And as a result of that, there were also tourists that came to visit the Greek islands, walk, do some hiking, see the villages, see the cultural landscape of Greece, see Greece in general, swim, enjoy. And there were also deaths, tourists like dying on these islands or getting lost, and they were for days they were not found. Some are still missing, and one that you might know was Dr. Michael Mosley. He was from the UK, and he came to the island of Simi, and he went on a hike in walking between some villages, and then a few days later, after a huge search and rescue operation, he was found. That he had died. He was seen in a CCTV camera walking through at some point, at some specifically time and date stamped on the CCTV footage, and then his wife was looking for him, and after a search and rescue effort he was found, and possibly as the coroner, the autopsy followed, was because of heat exhaustion, heat-related death. Possibly with other issues, health issues that I don't know if he did have or not, but at least we know that he was walking in the middle of the day when the heat was unbearable. It was very humid as well. And he had just come. It was his first day in Greece, so. Similar cases, French, Dutch people, French tourists that were lost and found later on hiking trails or on paths on different islands that people go to visit as tourists, but also to see cultural sites, landmarks, monuments, museums, because there is a saying in Greece that we say between us, and anywhere you dig in Greece, you will find antiquities below, which means that we are aware of how much, how many monuments, how many ancient ruins are there, and we have all these sites that people can visit. We have all these museums, smaller ones and bigger ones across Greece, and it's still going on. There's excavations, archaeological happening almost all year round. Well, not so much in the winter, but in the summer, which is again challenging. I was in the ancient site of Delphi this summer with a French team that were doing some excavations there. The heat again was challenging. They work from 7 o'clock until 2 o'clock, and under the heat with umbrellas, with hats, with everything, trying to preserve these sites, trying to do their scientific research and actual excavations as they do. So it is a challenging landscape. It is, the climate landscape is challenging. There is this irony as well, not irony, but like a paradox that we need, we need tourism. It is as a big part of our industry, of our financial sustainability, but at the same time we need to somehow find ways to protect these cultural sites, this heritage, these institutions from the impact of the climate-related changes and the human impact as well.
I already have a question for you. As Sirje mentioned this, and you just said about this, there is a business component in, in preserving and managing cultural heritage. And as you said, this, this site, this cultural heritage, this, buildings we all know from our school books, at least, they are cultural heritage, but it is also a resource. And as we know now, this resource is not limitless and it is fragile. So how, maybe how Greece is balancing this, this preservation and business, because actually I think it's even more extreme in case of Greece because of the tourist industry.
Yes, exactly. And that's why there are discussions now of trying to limit the number of tourists coming in, or finding other ways so that the people visiting at a specific time, point in time, are spread out and it doesn't create this overload. Which this overload will spill out to everyone: the guards working there, the shops, the drivers taking people to the sites, the buses. It creates its own economy on the one side, but the impact as well. This year and last year, it was the first time in recent years that the Acropolis was shut between 12 and 5 o'clock during the day because, again, of heat waves. And this was something that affected temporarily the economy. I mean, some people were against it. They were like, "Oh, we're losing our income. We're losing the tourists, the guides. What is that? We're not here to babysit the tourists. They know how to deal them, themselves. They can wear a hat. They can take water." Others were like, "No, we have this responsibility of protecting visitors who are not aware of how much the toll can be on this with the heat while you're climbing the Acropolis and sitting there in the sun and seeing everything and taking pictures, and you don't understand that sometimes you can be suffer from a heat stroke. It's something that you're not the signs are, when the signs are there, it's too late. So now there are these discussions, which, of course, the business side will not want. The travel agents, the tourism industry will not want that, because it is, as I said, it's number one. The number one source of financial income for the country right now is tourism. So many jobs around that. But there are these discussions of how to preserve it and how to make it maybe spread out over the year instead of focused on 4 months, which it was 2 months and now it's 4 months. It's again, but at the same time, we see that the heat and the heat waves that we were used to, they're also spread out in time and intensity. We had heat waves for a few days, but now we've had back-to-back heat waves for the whole course of the summer. So starting from early June until September, we've had temperatures over 37 degrees most of the days. That is a lot. And double that with dry conditions, lack of rain, humidity, it makes it really unbearable. And of course, the storage of the artifacts, the facilities, how to store them in these conditions. This is also something that is challenging, but resources are always kind of directed towards there, because we know it. The people working in museums, they know what the challenges are all the time with especially preserving these artifacts in these extreme conditions.
Would like to add something?
I would like to small comment to what Sirje you told. It's impossible to be prepared. You are right. You just cannot be prepared, because we went through the different protocols, recommendation of UNESCO, ICROM, and many other institutions how to be prepared before the crisis situation. When you are bombed, you are not prepared. It's impossible, and it means that you cannot save. And what is going on in Ukraine? It's just by Russia, it's just erasing evidence of our culture. That's why the culture is really the question of the national security. Because, and we're talking now a lot about it also in Ukraine, because once the evidence of your culture, of your nation erased, you are not exist. So that's it. You cannot prove your existence actually as a nation, as a culture, and so on. And it is impossible to save. It's the only one way to be as much loud as possible, to make the voices of all the institutions. Maybe it's a little bit pathetical, but really all the institutions around the world very loud to stop and to prevent the wars and to prevent the aggression. There is no other ways. We cannot save. I mean, it's impossible. The only way is to stop the aggression and actually to prevent the aggression, because otherwise we will not the cultures will not survive. And when one could tell that museums are not political one, I know that it's Estonian, it's not such a message at all, but museums are political. And museum means a lot. And what is a museum and culture institution are talking about and how they raise the question, this is really very important for our today agenda. Because when we raise a question and when we talk with our communities, then this is a chance to persuade the people, to persuade our culture, to persuade, our governments, and to persuade, well, European Union, and on the bigger level, to work more, to stop and to prevent such wars and aggression.
Thank you, Yuliya, very much, because exactly, raise a voice. This is so important to be seen, and especially for small cultures like ours. But I just want to remind one absolutely positive moment. It was 3 years ago in Venice, Spain, not in this year, but 2 years ago. It has started, and Ukraine was presented by 2 exhibitions. And anyway, I heard that your president came for the opening, which was absolutely mid of the absolute horror at this moment in Ukraine. And I remember this, the rumors through the Venice Biennial press visitors and everybody, president came in such a moment. It gave such a positive feedback. So I see how culture was supported, how important was culture at this moment for your country. So I always reminded, I'm telling to everybody, that and also to our politicians, how important it was. It simply was. So thank you.
I have questioned both of you about money, but in different ways. Sirje, you mentioned the cuts before, and do you deal with these cuts at the human capital issue? Because especially in your sphere, which is honestly a niche, it's quite difficult to to educate a person, the one you can trust your collection, your heritage. That's not the kind of expertise you can pick up on the street. So it's not cheap. So how do you address this problem of human capital in such a sphere as yours?
It's as I said, to be a foundation is pluses and minuses. Plus is that actually we are earning 50% money by ourselves. It's not 100,000, it's millions, which means that I am quite free to answer loss 13%, because this is what state is giving us, but it's giving only 50% for us. So it's not in numbers so big. And as we are responsible for our own income, which is we are working in our own income, so we are at least quite save our museum and other museums which are foundations too. But this is only one part. I'm talking on culture, and we agreed between ours. I know only one museum which actually is losing 1 or 2 places, but we definitely can't do it because we have the grown-up is so absolutely high-level professional community. I don't have anybody to send away, absolutely anybody. So at least by now, we have not even talked. I told at the first moment to my people, don't worry. The question is only that I am not sure I can raise salary in this year. Maybe, but let's see. Because inflation, at least that's a percentage of inflation, let me say some 4 or 5, which is for museums, again, around 1 million, if talking about everybody. But the question is, especially this private organization, which also have been a bit supported by state, and big, for example, big festivals, also our film, biggest, very internationally known film festival, Perth, and yachts festivals, and they are suffering. And also these small, how to say, theatre, small organizations, but where is our, how to say, I'm talking about, I'm leading big, and sorry to say, but in compare with some other organization, rich organization, and we can survive. But from where comes for this, but we need this root level cultural life. This is regional politics. This is security. Regional politics is security matter. And this is the question. It's not only about us. We are fine. We can live. But this, how to look the whole picture, the ornament, how it's growing up, this I'm very, very concerned. And this is the debate about now, not about institutions like ours. Even I very much believe that National Museum, Estonian National Museum in Tartu, I very much suggest you to go to see it. It's a very, very, very good museum, if you have not been yet. And also like Merite Museum, it's a quite rich organization. But exactly the regional politics, regional level, because how to say, the new blood comes from this level, not that we have already very good. So this is our concern, and this is a debate about not only some certain persons, but about the whole culture. What is your plan B? If we really have, I understand that the first level is now a question about our security and how to defend us, etc. We all understand it, but don't forget culture, which is, as you said, you have to be seen. If somebody knows us, not because we have some nice industries here, which say no Arvobert, maybe some names more, and this is why you have seen.
Yuliya, that's for Yuliya. Yuliya, you mentioned earlier that the task, the mission is to save people. In our Ukrainian case, to save physically, but also save them for the profession, for the industry. I don't know if it's the right word in this case. I can imagine how it works more or less in humanities. It's for Ukrainian academics. They can go abroad. They can teach in the universities in Western Europe or in United States, where it's safe, and it's even kind of beneficial for all of us. But I feel that museum is different. So how to save people for Ukrainian museums?
Well, I don't know. I'm very honest. I could comment some strategies or some I don't know, maybe yes, strategies of how people are dealing. Some museums, for example, like our museum, but we're a little bit, again, in the center of the city of Kyiv, in the capital, one of the most important museums with a collection of the Western European and Asian and Islamic art, with I don't know, Dürer, Goya, Rembrandt, and other masterpieces which we have, not of course like big, like in Louvre, but anyway, we have in the collection. So we have educated people, very intelligent, who know several languages, and these people, when the full-scale invasion started, I tried to find and contact with many institutions abroad to ask for taking these people who left Ukraine on the different position of scholarships in the international museums, so that they could actually benefit from being abroad to raise their professional level and then come back with this actually experience. It had happened because some people came back, and it's great because they got a new experience and they will share with the other people. But this is quite unique situation with the big museums where researchers speak foreign languages. The smaller museum, it's a tragedy now, to be honest, because people cut the salaries, because some regions doesn't have money for paying, and sometimes it's really the question to survive for the, especially on the front line cities and villages, it's a question for survive and to evacuate people. And as in the beginning of the full-scale invasion, sometimes it repeats right now when the Russian troops goes in this speed. Unfortunately, nobody cares. It's difficult to care about the culture and evacuation of the, and to give the job for the people who are working in the museum. This is a pessimistic part of the story, but it's true. We have to understand that part of the people will not be in the profession, unfortunately. But there is another story also, which gives us optimistic, because otherwise, I don't know, we'll just die. It's a communication and support between the institutions in Ukraine. For example, bigger museums started to help smaller museum, because bigger museum has knowledge how to involve grants, how to involve funding from the international foundations, how to operate with the money from the foreign foundation to help the small museums. And this job usually taken by the bigger museum. So they just help smaller museum and try to be such a, not mentor, but really like a office for us, like offices for the smaller museum, and help them. So this is one thing. Another thing, there's part of the museum which evacuated from the front line, they're sometimes based in other cities. Sometimes the collection based in other cities, and some staff from the museum, which used to be, for example, in Luhansk or Donetsk region, or on the Mariupol, Melitopol, so sometimes they start to work in other institutions in the center of Ukraine or in the west of Ukraine. I think that our colleagues from Lviv actually could tell the excellent story about one of the museum from the Luhansk region, when it was just relocated and run all the activity, not all the activity, but again run the activity with another museum in Lviv. So there are several such a story with Khmelnytsky, for example. So the people are not lost, and people find themselves in other institutions. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of such positive stories. The main problem, unfortunately, it's back to our past, when the museum directors were oppressed a lot, pushed by the regional authorities, when the salary was very low, and that's why nobody wants to work in a small museum. And there are few people who are professionals there, but a lot of people, unfortunately, unprofessional. And it was done during all the Soviet time to make these museums silent and not subjective, and didn't to feel the subjectivity. And that's why sometimes teams and director of the institution, unfortunately, just lost, and are not proactive in using the possibility and saving the people. But I do believe that the most active will survive, and the more active will be actually this force and giving this energy to rerun and rerun the museums with the new visions and with the new missions. Because I do believe that museums actually, they are places who are creating the visions and mission for the whole country. So I do believe that there is a moment when it will happen, and when it's happening already.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess we have some time to open the floor for questions. 5 minutes, right?
10 altogether.
And I see, and who? I can't see who has a mic. Okay, so Karl Henrik, yes.
Very briefly, it's an extremely interesting discussion, and I want to continue by asking a question about this international track. It took until August this year before the UNESCO Heritage Committee for the first time condemned the destruction of cultural heritage by Russia in Ukraine, more than 2.5 years after the start of the full-scale invasion. This is one topic here is institutions, and so my question goes to, well, mostly to Ukraine actually. How do you feel about the support of the international art and cultural heritage community? The support coming from Estonia is clear, but in general, the European support and the global support from the international art and cultural heritage community.
Thank you for this question. It's a great support. I'm honest here, and we have a lot of support, and really we feel the support from and we are very thankful for all the international institutions, foundations who support Ukraine. Sometimes we have troubles with the bureaucracy, and this is a little bit, and sometimes we have misbalance between rules of the European international foundations who operate in the very, in the modus of the civilization, I mean, so the civilized territory, and then you have to go and follow some rules when you're receiving the grants and receiving the help from the foundation. But the misbalance is between that. On the right side of Ukraine, on the east, there is no civilization. And sometimes balancing with the rules of the civilized countries and on-ground situation, when you have uncivilized neighbor nearby, it's quite difficult because you cannot write the protocol of evacuation of some collection from the museum and then report very precise how it was done because you just cannot report. You cannot report because sometimes it's done like it's a wild field. You are dealing like a cowboys, and really it depends only on the personal or some individuals who are crazy and who don't have any scare to run with the car somewhere on the front line to save and to bring from there some collection. So this is one moment when we are disbalanced, but anyway we are finding the way how to deal and how to explain this. But in general, it's a great support and a lot of support for Ukraine on different level. Another problem is that sometimes our authorities are not so active and cannot reply very quickly to the international foundation who used to work with the authorities and, for example, with the Ministry of the Culture or other authorities. But even in this case, foundation, and yes, it's incredible, but they became more flexible with Ukraine because you cannot believe that UNESCO will change the rules because they used to work with the Ministry of the Culture. But now they understand that this is not the way to be efficient, so they start to work with the foundation, with the NGOs and directly with the museum to help and to run some projects which could help the museum. So here's only the positive way how we get this help. The problem only is that physically, anyway, it's difficult to save people and difficult to save heritage. So this help needs for the moment a little bit. I mean, it could help, but if we will not win the war, it unfortunately will not help. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have another question. My name is Alina. I'm Ukrainian and I'm from Kyiv. And your Museum of Khanenko has a very special place in my heart. I used to study just across the park for it and going there very often. And knowing that the rooms are now empty there, it also something that's creates this empty space in my heart too. And you mentioned that you feel that the memory about the museum fades away while the halls remain empty. And from my part, I would like to assure you that the memory about the museum, the collection, and the textures of the walls and of the events, they remain in our memory, and in my memory in particular, thousands of kilometers away. So it exists.
Thank you.
And as I would represent the community of Ukrainians in Tartu, we have the organization, the grassroots organization Ukraina Maya for a culture here. And we Ukrainians in Tartu have quite a strong community in the spirit, as all the Ukrainians are. And we also choose to be more proactive in our life and our support to Ukraine. And I would like to ask you, in which ways do you think the Ukrainians abroad could benefit your call, could benefit your actions? How could we help you to stay afloat and to reach the goals of the preservation of Ukrainian culture? Those Ukrainians who are not museum experts, specialists, just people who were forced to be away from home.
I will be very short. First of all, thank you very much for this comment that it's not erasing the memories, that it stays in your heart, and it's with you. I think that the community, the community could be active and support with a different, maybe parallel program or with a different discussion programs when there's some exhibition or some project is happened in Estonia or in other countries. So I think it was one of the way. I'm not really very good for this to answer you right now, but I think and after the discussion we could talk and maybe I will give some more ideas.
Thank you. We can have one more question. Still have a few minutes. Okay, maybe at this point I will thank you for the luxury of having you here for this first discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you for the audience.